Hey guys, what's going on? I don't know how good the audio is. It's windy as crap over here. Anyways, I think it's time that we launch this series. Just long story short, I got some pretty good headway on this thing. I did get pretty far into it, but then I kind of got overwhelmed, and then my arm started hurting, and then I had to quit. It got too hot. But now where it's freezing outside, and the time to build your boat, if you guys are wondering, is right now, before the season starts. Because when the season starts, it's too late. What are you going to be building your boat the whole season? Anyways, why am I building a pontoon boat? Really, it's kind of to be an all-around family rig. I don't have a family rig boat, but I am a family man. And I've noticed over the years that, you know, if you only have a bass boat, the wife hates it. I'm not about that happy wife, happy life crap. I'm about happy king, happy kingdom. That is the actual truth, but it doesn't mean that you can just like neglect the other side. So for years, she's watched me build all these boats that really only benefit me, and this one's the only one she's ever been excited about. And just truth be told, every time I've ever rented a pontoon boat or did something for the family, it's really a nice way to unite the family. I feel that every guy who actually owns a legitimate bass boat is one little small tournament away from a divorce. And you guys subconsciously know I'm right. You probably know a friend, or you've seen them working in an academy or a sportsman's warehouse or even a Bass Pro talking about their old warrior stories on the trail before somewhere in that story eventually comes out a nasty divorce. This is why they're working there. It's because bass fishing in and of itself is a very selfish sport. I mean, look at the boat. It's only meant to catch bass. Where's your family going to sit? In that little cockpit? I mean, even in a real bass boat that has seats and stuff, it's still not very entertaining for like the whole crew. Very hard to make yourself happy on a boat like this without inconveniencing somebody else at some aspect. The only boat that I ever had that accomplished everything was this one. This was a true do-it-all sportsman rig that could entertain the family and friends and anybody who just wanted to chill. They were able to do so. They could lounge around in chairs with a drink in their hand, listening to music. All the while, you could use this boat in any capacity because it was big enough and it just had enough stuff accommodated into it that where you could get your little sportsman fix and you weren't bored out of your mind wishing you could fish. And that made this boat a whole lot of fun, but it was really big. It was a 2070 John boat. It's really hard to find a John boat this big unless you're in key sections of the country, and it's even harder to build it. Truth be told, I could accomplish more or less the same thing out of a pontoon boat. It probably wouldn't go as fast or handle a certain way the way this boat does, but it would be way easier to build. And all these things we're doing on this boat right now can be easily accomplished with a pontoon boat. Plus, it'll be my boat, so there won't be anybody in my way this time. No matter how nice or high functioning the person is, they're always get in the way with their own stuff, and, well, none of that's going to happen this time. We'll stick our own vision through on this boat. But I'm going to try to make, doesn't mean I don't have my own selfish wants out of this boat. I want a true fishing pontoon boat, and I have a design I'm going to try to push through to it, where it's a legit 50-50 split. All business up front for fishing, party in the back for those who just want to lounge and drink and listen to music and chill. It's just a different perspective. A lot of people asked me to do pontoon boats for a while. This will be my first legitimate one for me. Second one overall for the crew, but for me, this is the big run. So what is the platform? This is an old Sun Cruiser with 24-foot long pontoons. They are 23 inches in diameter. The tube diameter does really matter. So if you're looking for an old pontoon boat, find one with the biggest tubes you can. At least as big as this. And then, you know, this one had old busted, rat out furniture, that clear damage here. Like, use all that to get the price down. The thing that is most important is the condition of the pontoons and the condition of the deck, and whether or not it has protection, like shielding underneath like this one did. It's got an actual old school 115 Johnson. Pretty happy. It's like a super old school motor though. Jeez, it's old school. The things I want to do, possibly making this a tri-tune. I think the trailer is a bigger thing. I actually based my model off of this trailer for the other pontoon boat, but it has full size like rims and tires. These gotta go. We're gonna do something with those. It's fairly serviceable for that. The inside of it's all there. Like I'm torn between trying to add a tri-tune to it. If I'm going to do it, I should do it now while the hull is still like bare and unbuilt. Once I start to build it, it'll be fairly difficult. So the whole thing about a pontoon boat is the hardest thing about making sure this thing is correct is having the pontoons done correctly. Other than that, all this is just furniture. It rips out. All this is just bolted to the floor. It rips out. I have pretty good ideas of what I want to do for all these sections. They'll rip out. Double bimities. We're gonna weld a custom T-top. Well, it's gonna be like not quite a T-top, but real close, and it's gonna extend out. Oh, that's how you would access the inside here. Okay, there's the fuel tank.
Really dock.
Got Dom the Destroyer here. Ugh. No, not that way. Oh, I guess. Just don't hit the RV. That was clean. Good job. Look at the old school build. Just wood and... Oh. Okay. Yeah, you can make something really unsophisticated look very nice with just a little bit of carpet and vinyl. This might be the easiest gut job ever. Like, I knew it would be easy, but I didn't know it would be this easy. Like, all this stuff is about to just get ripped out. Oh. So pulling that bolt off is one thing, getting the steering wheel off is another. Let's hope it comes off easy. We're gonna gut a pontoon. Gut an old one, because they're cake. It just comes right off. We gutted this whole boat, minus the side console, in like, what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes? And that was just being slow and not terribly expedient. Okay, we'll get all this old carpet off here very, very quickly. Wherever this went, they really liked the beach because there was tons of sand that ripped through that carpet. It's all over the place. I got like a little window here. If I don't use that window before it gets too hot, I won't be able to finish this thing. So keeping that in mind and trying to keep this simple and fast as possible, we're going to go ahead and just clean this deck up as best we can. Get whatever dirt and grime we can get off so the resin can get the best penetration. Prep the surface if possible. That's it. The cool thing, this guy laid the trolling motor like this, neighbor of mine, and he just deployed it off the side like that. That's actually pretty smart. A considerable amount of oil seep through here. It's just like weird that it's right here. More so on this side. I don't know if that's what that has to do with this tank. There's the gas tank. Full of 2-year-old gas. We've got to siphon that out because that cannot run in the motor. Right, so after we're blowing this all away, we're going to go ahead and try to secure some of the panels. There seems to be a minimum amount of screws holding in each of these panels. There are 5 of them, 24 feet long, so 4, 8, 12, 16, 24, at an exact 8-foot wide beam. And the wood, despite everything it's gone through, seems in fairly good condition. Not a whole lot of cracking or missing pieces or like soft spots. Actually, I think I could just prep this wood, make sure there's an adequate amount of screws this time versus, you know, when it went through the cheap line. And then I'm going to do what most people don't ever do to this. I'm going to resin coat it. All right, we're doing this. No sunlight, no problem. It's the best time to get something done out here. Nobody bothers you. Everybody's unconscious because they're asleep like a bunch of sheep. You can just come out here and grind. Self-tapper's there. Filled in the gap with this stuff. Pretty much is just thickened epoxy. West System 610. Thickened epoxy adhesive, which means you place it in places and it will not run. It'll stay right where it is until it sets. And that really is, if you can understand, so invaluable. Otherwise, you know, we would put it in there, it would seep in there, we'd have to wait till it cured, then we'd have to put more and hope it didn't seep in more. Like, this will just stay and seal here. And still here, and we're just going to wait a little bit. I mean, I was thinking that if I had to take off this pontoon floors, it'd be a nightmare. Well, there is virtually almost no bolts into like the framing from the deck. There is like 1, maybe 2 per joint, and they're perfectly in between the wood, so naturally they failed after so long. So this time we took self-tappers and put one like so, like here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we do that all the way down. But we have the best chance of the slow epoxy curing. I do expect a lot of bubble and warping, and we're having to do some refinishing work after the first initial layer is on. Now, I could probably just refinish this with like oil-based enamel or some sort of epoxy paint, but I want this floor to last forever. I'm going to do a whole lot of work to this thing. What is honestly the best bet? Aluminum is not going to do as good a job on this deck. I did think of replacing it with all aluminum. I thought about it. There's just like strength per span. Nothing actually beats wood. And this is one of the rare circumstances where wood just beats aluminum and where it makes more sense. So let's just try and extend the wood's life the best we can possibly do, and that is with West Systems 105 2-part epoxy resin. Now I know I have the 205 fast hardener there, but you really want the 206 slow hardener. The slow hardener has the best penetration and lays out the best. The fast hardener is for really when you've done all the slow cure stuff and you just need like a finishing, or maybe a vertical surface because it cures faster and is a little thicker. There are cheaper routes like polyester resin, epoxy paint, or even like oil-based enamel, and to be honest, all those will seal this deck up just fine, especially if you're putting EVA foam or some sort of really solid flooring that doesn't bleed through like carpets. But the thing I really like about resin is it adds strength to the parent layer of the wood, and it prevents like the cracking and the organic degradation. There's nothing else that seals it better than epoxy, specifically 2-part epoxy marine, and that's why we have chose to use it. Now, the wood that's going to soak in the resin the least would be brand new marine grade plywood, which is Supreme plywood. But if you're using construction grade plywood, or if you're trying to refinish old plywood like we're doing on this pontoon boat, it's going to soak in a lot. Remember, that's been weathered, stepped on, and so there's a lot of cracks and pores, and you put on resin and the wood is just going to soak it all in. So there's actually quite a bit more than I expected to finish this off. That's actually 1 full gallon. And it only did 2 planks, where normally that 1 full gallon would do the entire thing. But that's just kind of part of the game. You're going to have to fill those voids because that's what's going to re-strengthen the wood and repair it. Somewhere around $400 between all the resin and hardware that I spent, maybe more, and maybe that may sound a lot, but considering I didn't have to rip up these wooden planks and buy brand new $100+ sheets of marine grade plywood, at 5 of them at that, it did pretty good. And I'm also making a favorable surface for the EVA foam HydroTurf sheets to stick. Now, I will probably have to refinish this because one part of this, when you put it on plywood like this, is the surface likes to bloat, and you have a bunch of unevenness on the entire thing, and you'll see them, high spots, low spots. That's not really good for business when you go to put down the layer of adhesive, and you definitely don't want to be stepping on it or feeling the irregularity or even seeing the shadow from it like later on after the foam is laid. So we're going to go ahead and take an orbital sander and use that to sand down all the high spots and any irregularities, because there are little pieces of leftover carpet and chunks of whatever. We're going to sand all that down, and then we're going to give it a final finishing coat, make it as much like a glass floor as possible, and then we're going to move on to the actual boat build. All right. So in this whole thing, you could tell which sheets needed the most help. It was these 2 sheets right over the cockpit. They needed insatiable amounts of help. It soaked in way more resin, these 2 sheets, like about as much than the rest of the boat combined. The front 2 had the least damage, were the most manageable, but even they needed 2nd and 3rd coatings. All the high spots, you could see where they were, that we sanded them down. And that means like the initial parent layer, once it's all bloated and set that way, then you put more resin on, it's not going to bloat again. So that's really a finishing layer once you've got it clean, and it's going to end up looking like this. It'll be glossy at first when it sets, and then when it cures, it'll kind of be like cloudy, but it's all rejuvenated and ready to use. All right, so I took off all the railing. I was going to leave it on, but the more I try to conform to retrofit to somebody else's old design, the more it really hinders the creative process. I really need this thing to be a bow fishing / party rig. And I could do that with these things. I just have chosen to go a different direction. So I'll just have random pontoon gates for some other project. Now this is just a quick look into what it looks like with the layer of resin versus what it used to look like. And you can kind of just tell the difference. So now all I have to do is prep the very little last part of the front deck that the gate was closing off, and then just get rid of that old carpet. I mean, carpet has got to be the worst thing to put on that deck. I mean, carpet is like, if it's what you fancy, then go ahead and put it on there, but there's like so many other better things now in today's time. So once you do all this work and prep the surface and then recoat, choose something wise. I mean, as far as conditioning, I guess you can get a surface conditioner, a surface conditioning tool. You can get like a Bauer surface conditioner from Harbor Freight. Probably would work better than this, if we're being completely honest. But this is what I got. All right, so the 22 feet of deck here is ready to go. We just got to do this last little 2.5 feet. If there's one last tip I can give you this, if you know there's a section that's real porous and is going to soak in a lot, just try and pour a lot of it at one time. Like mix a lot and just throw it on there. That way it'll lay out clean one time versus doing a bunch of multiple layers. All right, day I think 3.5. It was inevitable. The back had to go. The only thing that stays is the motor and the console. The deck is now finished. This is the last to be prepped. This is curing. You can tell it gets all, when it's totally cured, it's not glass, it's like cloudy. It's starting to get cloudy. So by somewhere by noon, it'll be well on its way. And the sun does help it cure tremendously faster. And that's part one of restoring this thing. Now, naturally, this project got out of hand like all of them. So we're gonna go ahead and make our own fencing and ditch the other stuff. And we're gonna try and make a really unique design. I'm gonna try to make the first ever fishing pontoon boat, an actual true mullet. Business up front for the fisherman who's trying to get it, and then party in the back for the wife and the family members who only care about drinking and eating and listening to stupid music. This is the only boat I've ever started to build that my wife is actually excited about. All the other ones, you could tell she had an eternal hatred for it, but this one, she's cheering it on. But there will be complications. For one, it's too big to fit in my garage, and that will, in of itself will cause me a whole lot of problems. So I can only work on it for so long for certain days, and then, well, I got to get around my own head, which made all of this really a monstrous headache. You just wait and see in part 2 how we get there. See you out there.